Hello, civilized people. For the past few weeks, a battle has been brewing in the political world. A battle which didn't receive all that much media coverage. In the shadows, old progressive man, Israeli sympathetic liberal, and token gay guy, truly the heroes of our time, have been duking it out behind the scenes to see who will be one Kamala Harris's running mate in her bid to raise the spirits and restore her party's ambitions to claim the White House. So hop into the ectomobile, fire up your proton gun, and call Dan Aykroyd. As today, on the Goss and Rome podcast, we answer the question of if you are trying to resurrect the ghost of your party's political ambitions, who are you going to call? So, Colton, how you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm a little sad that our last outrage episode, warrants another
Outrage episode?
yeah, just
Yeah,
another episode of like, really, this is the discourse.
yeah. Well, so who do you call Colton?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm gonna let you finish your
obviously,
joke.
Tim Walls got the VP spot, but he was not, in fact, the first person she called. He was not the second. Um, Given people that I know that work within the DNC Beast, uh, more than 10 people were called before she settled upon 10 walls. Apparently, she was reaching out to people like Gavin Newsom, to Gretchen Whitmer, and I've even heard talk that she reached out to Michelle Obama because she didn't really have all that much. She wanted somebody that would really elevate the ticket, but and even the media were talking about all these various options, and most of them didn't even really compete for it. Uh, the general consensus among the people that I've spoken with being that most people with you know real intent to run for the White House sort of view being her running mate as kind of a dead end.
Hmm.
So even now, there's not a lot of hope that she'll actually win the election. So that's a thing that's happening behind the scenes. But nonetheless, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, was selected. And I think we should sort of look at what the man brings to the table as well as some of the outrage surrounding him because it's all kind of humorous, you know?
Sounds good.
So, what I'm willing to start with some of the boring stuff, which is just sort of assessing what he really brings to the table electorally. And the answer is of the three people that appeared to actually be competing to be her vice president, which was Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, and Pete Buttigieg. I will never pronounce his last name correctly.
Isn't it Buttigieg?
Yeah, I can't say that. Uh,
All right.
but that's just yeah. I don't even want to take a stab if that's correct. But of those three, Shapiro was probably the best option. But Walls was not the worst. Pete was probably the worst. Uh, the area where Democrats really struggle these days is outside of major population centers. And I think it's safe to say that a woman of color and a gay guy are probably not the winning ticket for rural America. Would you agree with that, Colton?
Yeah, it's that wouldn't work at all. I mean, we've
That
already
would,
talked about that opportunity before and how that's just
yeah,
bad.
It, it doesn't cater to the people that they are in desperate need of. Uh, the problem though with Walls is that he doesn't seem to actually bring anything that much to the table. Uh, Walls, when he was a senator, very much your classic conservative Democrat, or more conservative Democrat, became governor, much more progressive, which he has to be in Minnesota. Minneapolis, St. Paul pretty much control the state just because it's the only big population center. So that's sort of what he brings to the table. And additionally, he sort of runs hand in hand with what Biden was running as, which, you know, I personally, I don't think it's quite enough to really. It's obvious that Kamala chose him because she is hoping he will make the Rust Belt, your Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, even because of recent polling, and Pennsylvania a bit more friendly. But he's running hand in hand with what Biden was running when he ran for governor. He very much underperforms Obama in the rural areas, which is really what they kind of need to get back if they want to, you know, secure those states and get those electoral votes. That being said, of the three, he's not the worst.
No, he's definitely pretty middle of the road, at least if you had only those 3 options.
Yeah, you did. It's I do find it kind of humorous that other people were called first, and I get the reason why. Uh, None of them really have very good name recognition, and it's unlikely. In recent years, you've seen the vice presidential picks become less and less important, and so that paired with their lack of name recognition, I don't expect it will swing the needle all that much. Though I do think that the only thing I think that this will do pretty solidly is where Minnesota actually had polling recently that put it into the Trump column. I think it's safe to say Minnesota will stay blue this cycle because of the Walls pick.
I was never of the opinion that Minnesota would ever go red, so this changes nothing for me.
Yeah, the only reason I give it is because in 2016 Trump had it very close. It was like a 2 point race. Uh, the metrics in the U.S. have shifted. At that point in time, I believe the Democrats nationwide had a +4 advantage, meaning 4% more people, 4% of the population in total more identified as Democrats more than that which identified as Republicans. So like 32 to 28, if you will.
Mhm.
But that is now Republican +1. That's been a 5 point swing since 2016. So that's a very different environment to win an election in. And that's the only reason I gave it any credence. That and the fact that you have a lot of white working class people that have flocked to Trump that live in Minnesota. The only thing really preventing Minnesota from going swinging a bit more to the right, like Michigan and Wisconsin, being that you tend to have, because of Minneapolis, St. Paul, not only a lot more people as a percentage of the population living in an urban area, but also by virtue of that, a lot more of them being college educated, which also tends to be a demographic that Trump struggles with. So that's the only reason I really gave it that much credit.
Mhm.
But moving right along. So essentially, the process that seemed to be used to choose a running mate was basically auditions, having these people go out and, give speeches and try to drum up enthusiasm in various states. And it, to a degree, it was somewhat humorous because, some of these people went to states like Florida, states which, if we're being honest, the Democratic Party doesn't really have a chance in. But yeah, it was pretty run of the mill stuff. But so, Colton, seeing as how you are the master of dissecting outrage,
Oh God.
go ahead and let's talk about Tampon Tim for a minute.
Ugh. What about it?
Just start with the beginning, man. It
My
Yes,
beginning or your beginning?
your beginning.
Okay. So, for everybody else, I just hate all of these like headline opinion articles. I don't think there's a single piece of journalism or news nowadays that's not an opinion article, so nothing is ever facts. And again, nothing against either side spinning their own narratives for campaigning purposes, but this one is just dumb. So the whole
Eh,
tampon Tim thing, oh my gosh.
are we talking so the same level of dumb as
This
JD Vance wanting a dolphin, or
Yes, the same level. Where it's just like, why would you bring this? This is something you could easily look it up. I looked it up. I didn't even Google it. I binged it. I binged it, and it was the first result.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
not even like the first result, as in I saw a bunch of opinion articles, as in I just looked up the law and just read it. It is the first thing. It is directly under Article 1, general education.
Huh?
Should I just read it?
Yeah.
I still have it
Well,
pulled up.
let's talk about what the thing is right now.
All right, go for it.
The what's sort of being thrown out is that Tim Walz is claiming that it's being claimed that Tim Walz issued a mandate that tampon machines be installed in the bathrooms of high school boys. And to the credit, to an extent of that sentiment, of that belief, it was actually done in at least one school, but that isn't what was signed into law.
No,
That's not at all what was signed into law.
and I will type it out right now. You guys can hear the clickety clack of me typing it. That is physical evidence. All right, I'm gonna search in the entire article, the entire law, like all of it. Not even an article. The entire just plain text of the law. Tampons, one of one. So it's only brought up one time in the thing I'm about to read. All right.
Yeah, please.
Section 1, Access to Menstrual Products. A school district or charter school must provide students with access to menstrual products at no charge. The products must be available to all menstruating students in restrooms regularly used by the students in grades 4 to 12, according to a plan developed by the school districts. For purposes of this section, menstrual products means pads, tampons, or other similar products used in connection with the menstrual cycle. That is it. There is nothing mentioning boys' rooms or anything of that nature. It is, in my expert opinion, because I'm an expert and I read the law and none of you probably did, so I'm the expert here, um, that this was some overzealous superintendent or school principal or some crazy school district or even a private school. Could have been a private school.
It was a public school. I do remember that. It was a public school,
All right, well, there you go.
which explains a lot about considering public education.
Yes. And then just to be super extra mega clear, you can hear me typing again. I'm going to type in menstrual, right? We
Yep.
have the one, two, three, four, five, six. There are five. There are six times that this word is used in the entirety of it. The other time, one of the other times is saying that they're going to give the school districts or the schools $2 per student to make sure that these are paid for. So it's like a funding thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another stipulation again saying that the students are under no time at all are to pay for these. That is the other only other time.
Yeah.
I'm now closing the law page. We can now talk about whatever.
Yes. So the law itself is open. A superintendent can certainly say, yes, we're going to put these in, boys' bathrooms. But that's not what it, at core, the intent of this law seemed to be. It appeared to just be more of a case that, okay, we're going to provide, women's hygiene products in bathrooms. That's generally the takeaway from it.
And now the real takeaway from this is that you shouldn't be attacking him for calling him Tampon Tim. You should be attacking him for wanting to sign an assault weapons ban. You should be attacking him for any of his foreign policy like wants and desires.
Yeah, there. Make no mistake. Tim Walz is very much to the left these days. Uh, he is not a moderate, even though he does a fairly good job of trying to present himself as that. But given the current electorate's distaste for the left, for the very hard left, that is, at least independent voters' very real distaste for the more progressive left these days, there's a lot to attack him on. There's a lot to attack this man on. But nope, Tampon Tim.
That's the level of discourse these days because it's got to fit, on Twitter. And it's just,
Yeah,
oh, there again. There's so much more you can attack him on. You can sound so much more educated, and you could argue issues because Trump talks about issues if you like Trump, and Kamala hasn't even been interviewed at all since she became the
yeah,
candidate. They have
yeah,
not talked about issues other than the time at their rally they talked about wanting an assault weapons ban.
yeah,
There are issues you can talk about, and you can sound way better because they have it's not I don't even think it's on her website talking about any issues.
yeah. And the like, it's kind of funny. In the same way that abortion and abortion rights tends to be a very strong issue for Democrats, gun rights is a very strong issue for Republicans. A very strong issue. It is very viable electorally. And Lord, what was it? Whenever Bill Clinton signed the Brady Act, that was widely the issue of gun rights was widely regarded as being what swung the legislature so far to the right after he enacted that. So the gun rights attack is pretty popular, and you've got a lot of hunters. You've got a lot of gun owners in Minnesota and throughout the Rust Belt. White working class people really like guns. It's a thing.
And this isn't even talking about the multiple personal issues that he
Oh
has,
my,
which let's just get into them now. Like the stolen valor thing that JD Vance went at him at, where he, didn't go with his
s-
unit with to Iraq with them. Like,
yeah. To give that a breakdown, uh, while he was still serving, Tim Walz essentially said, "No, I'm not deploying. I'm running for Congress," which saw him, not go. He basically just he essentially refused to be deployed. which is not a very good look. You've now had, people that had served with him come out and condemn him for that, asking like, so, he saying things like, oh, he wants to, vote on where we get sent, but he refuses to actually, be deployed with us. That's a very bad look. Additionally, ah, I can't remember the rank that he claims, but in reality, he peaked at a rank lower at sergeant major. He never actually attained the rank that he claims. So I believe he was an E7 instead of an E8. But I might be mistaking on the exact titles there. I don't quite remember. But that's a valid attack that can be levied against him. And that's something that will certainly resonate with a lot of veterans. And yeah. So then you have do you want to go into the DUI thing at all? Because that one's just funny.
Yeah, this one isn't so much as political as anybody that has an alcoholic parent can kind of attest to this. This just sounds like something that one of those parents might do. But so he apparently got pulled over, and at the time he was he in politics at the time or not yet?
No, not yet. This I believe was when he was in his 20s. It's been quite a while ago, but the story surrounding it is just hilarious.
Yeah, he got pulled over for drunk driving, um, and the very general story is that he claimed he was deaf to try and get out of it. That's why he didn't pull over.
Yep.
And
So you don't see the flashing lights.
yeah, it's again,
And
if any of you have parents that drink, it sounds like something they would do.
and so he was speeding at I believe it was 96 miles an hour in a 50 or a 55. And he managed to negotiate that down to just reckless speeding. And humorously enough, after the fact, uh, the defense that his lawyer cited to still try and proclaim his innocence, he claimed that Tim thought he was being chased by someone. So clearly he didn't see the lights. So every time, so he would go faster because the person behind him was going faster. So yeah, that was a thing that happened.
What a silly story. Just
And and at the time period, I believe he was a high school teacher. Apparently, to his credit, he offered to resign, but the principal at the school said he shouldn't, though did apparently chastise him severely.
I don't know if I'm reading all the right sources. According to though, but what I have seen is that he was a fairly popular teacher.
Yeah, yeah. I I can't speak to any of that, but I mean, they're basically what we're getting at is that there are things that you can legitimately attack the guy on. Now, I think we both know that, like it or not, the tampon argument's probably going to have some weight.
I mean, yeah, with people that are like obsessed with the culture war, and like, fair enough, I get it. That's your issue. Fair enough, but I
Well,
think it's stupid.
well, the reality of it is that at this point, you've seen a lot of crazy social stuff come out, and even if it was a complete fabrication, there are probably people who would believe it.
Well, I mean, everything, pretty much everything, is a complete fabrication at this point. Turns out the JD Vance like couch thing was just fake.
Yeah,
So like, it doesn't really matter at this point.
yeah. I mean, I don't think the JD Vance one will hold quite as much weight just because in this case you did have some overzealous superintendent decide to, put tampon machines in boys' bathrooms, and that did hit the news. It
Maybe it
hit
was
the news
money
several years
laundering.
ago. Yeah, and
Guys, we can claim $2 more for every student for the other half of the students if we just put like tampons in every bathroom. Think about this.
well, the bill says for every student, so that includes the men.
It
So
says
the
for
men are
every
technically
menstruating student.
for every menstruating. Oh, oh.
Yeah, if you just claim that everybody's menstruating and you have
Yeah,
twice
we're
the population, you get twice the dollars.
exactly.
That's
Good
just good
plan.
business.
That is good business. But so how do you think that the choice of walls is going to help the election?
I think it's pretty inconsequential. If there ends up being a VP debate, I don't know if there's going to be a VP debate, to be honest. But if there ends up being one, I would be cautious if I were a Republican because if true, if he was he seems like he's fairly charismatic, at least far more than Kamala. And if he's good at speaking to the common man, like he was a good teacher and stuff, then he might be able to just beat JD Vance because JD Vance is a high-minded kind of guy,
Yeah,
and most general people are not into politics and not very high-minded, so they might just follow what the gym teacher says.
yeah, kind of. The I think that uh, this one's weird because I'm going to have to tie RFK into this one. The RFK's movement has, in a lot of ways, been very much held up because of a lot of Democrats that disapproved of the vaccine mandates. That appears to be a lot of his appeal. And certainly he has other things, but that's, I believe, sort of what propelled him initially. And I think that he hurts Kamala's chances for pulling back any of those RFK voters just because Tim Walz was and has been very draconian in his take on the vaccines.
Okay.
So I do think that that is something that could possibly hurt them from pulling the RFK crowd back into the fold because the numbers we have seen on it broadly indicate that for every one person that he is taking from Trump, he is pulling somewhere between 3 and 4 from the Democrat ticket. So that's a group that they will probably struggle a bit more to win over now.
Yeah, I can see that.
Other than that, I don't see much of consequence. Uh, Given that he is progressive, I think he will energize the youth vote somewhat. But I don't. But energizing a group that, even in the best case scenario, just doesn't turn out to vote,
Hmm.
you know, what does that really do for you? So, yeah. Anyway, any other wonderful takes on Mr. Walls?
I think he's a great lesson for every American is that when you get a speeding ticket, you should hire a lawyer and fight it.
Yes, good on him.
Good on him.
Although they, although that was also a DUI.
Even better, you can fight those too.
Fight everything.
That's right.
Yep. So, with that being said, I believe we've said our piece on this. So, to everybody still listening, thank you for having done so. And we hope you learned something today.
Have a good one, folks.
So, take care, everybody.